Hey, greetings, everybody. We are live yet again with another episode of D Live, the Convo series. Talking to some wonderful folks across the city of Cincinnati. And today, I'm super excited to have Colleen Reynolds joining us. I will introduce her here in a moment, give it a couple of ticks of the clock here to let folks come on line here at 7 o'clock. We try to be as consistent as possible with the time so you know when to tune in and join us. By the way, if anybody has a comment, a question for Colleen or myself, please feel free to leave those in the comments, and we'll try to get to those. I'll keep an eye on it. And then also, I am posting these to my YouTube channel, which you should be able to find by searching Derek Bauman. It should come up, and so we're going to have all of the list. And honestly, with some of the great background stories that we're getting from folks, this may be good information years down the road to come to look back and see some of these stories. So, Colleen, when somebody's writing your biography someday, maybe they'll come back and refer to this show.
So watch this, yeah, absolutely.
Right. But anyway, we have some folks joining us here right now, so we'll go ahead and kick it off. Let me introduce Colleen real quick. Oakley resident and not a native Cincinnati. I want to hear more about her, like everybody, her backstory, how she came here and has become so passionate about the city. President, I think she's in her second term now as a Oakley Community Council president, and really a varied background and really a diverse background and a lot of achievements at a relatively young age, which is pretty impressive when we talk about that. So, Colleen, thank you for joining me this evening, and all of us out here on Facebook and the internet. And thank you, and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, now let's start at the beginning. I mean, where are you originally from, and what brought you to Cincinnati? And then I want to talk a little bit just about your passions in terms of public service, in particular, the city of Cincinnati. You're involved in a number of different things. And also specifically the Oakley community, where you're the community council president. So just kind of start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit.
Cool. Thanks, Derek. Yeah. So I was originally born in Louisville, Kentucky. My family is not from there, but they moved there for my dad's job in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I came along. I was there all through high school, and then moved to Cincinnati to go to Xavier University. So I'm a proud Musketeer and Xavier alumni. And really that has changed my life. I tell a lot of people that it was the smartest decision I ever made was to go to Xavier for my undergrad. And what attracted me to Xavier particularly was their commitment to social justice and service of the community, and a program they have called Philosophy, Politics, and the Public, which is kind of like poli-sci, but on steroids. You do campaigns and public policy and learn about history from all over the world. You study abroad, write a thesis. So it's really challenging, but definitely gets you out of the classroom and into the real world. And that definitely set my path forward. I always say that the Cincinnati plan worked on me, where they kind of attracted me to come in and convinced me that it would be the right move to stay. So as soon as I graduated, I jumped right in. Was fortunate enough to start my first job out of school with City Councilmember P.G. Sittenfeld.
Let me hold on. Let me interrupt you right there for a moment, because I want to make just a quick comment about I think we call it the PPP program at Xavier. So we have had a lot of folks come out of that, and I've noticed kind of especially in the political circles in Cincinnati, they come out of that program, and I think people go into the program because they're super engaged and care about these issues to begin with. But I've seen that. As a matter of fact, I have folks that worked on my campaign in 2017 that were alumni of the PPP program, and so it's that program is very unique, and I think is doing really wonderful things for not only the students in the program, and I've been there and spoken to the students as well, but also in preparing and getting folks engaged that end up in service and in the political realm here in Cincinnati. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just your sophomore year, they have you work on a campaign in the fall and do some lobbying and public policy in the spring. And then most of the time you take an internship, usually political, that summer afterwards. So I marched on up to DC and worked for a company called 270 Strategies, full of some folks that helped get Obama reelected for the second time, a couple who were on his first campaign as well, and learned about community organizing. And I totally attribute that opportunity to my experience with PPP. And yeah, I think it really gives you not just resume building items, but real opportunities to learn and to grow and see what kind of political passions you might have. And when you graduate from PPP, you could go on to work in any kind of field. So we have folks who went straight to law school, folks who went to med school, folks who decided to go straight into the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Teach for America, folks who went and worked on campaigns, folks who went and worked in public service, went on to get different degrees in all kinds of ways. So we kind of range all over the map. The program's a little under 20 years old, if my memory serves me right, somewhere between 10 and 20. And it's so you've got some alumni who are doing incredible things across the country now. So it's fun to watch it grow. It's a pretty small program, so you kind of know everybody.
Right. No, that's very cool, and I think there's probably a lot of folks out there that that aren't aware of it, perhaps, and so it's interesting to hear that perspective. But I really do think it's an asset to our community there at Xavier. The other thing that you mentioned already that I took note of. Both of us not being, born in Cincinnati, born and raised here, but have adopted Cincinnati as our hometown. There's something about it that you can't quite put your finger on. That I actually warn people. I'm like, hey, just be aware. You move to Cincinnati, you're going to fall in love with the city, and you're probably not going to leave. So just know that. Yep. Just know that coming in. I mean, it seems like you had that same kind of process.
I feel like everyone has their moment too, and I don't know what yours is, Derek, but I remember mine pretty vividly. It was my first summer here, actually, after my freshman year, and I was spending the summer working at St. Vincent de Paul, and my job was to take a bunch of high school kids on immersion experiences. So someone who had never been to over the Rhine before, or who had kind of never experienced their city before because they were lived out in the suburbs, and to help them kind of see and understand the common humanity that all Cincinnatians share, and the history that was here, and why it was important, and kind of where we've been, but where we want to go. And I knew right then and there, I was barely 19 years old, and said, this is a special place. Reminds me a little bit of Louisville. There's some commonalities there, right. But I knew I wanted to be here a long time. And then the rest of my time at Xavier, I really attribute so much of my career to them, my young career to them, for getting me out of the classroom and helping me see the city that I fell in love with. But yeah, it's awesome.
And for the students or prospective students that may watch this program at some time, consider that. It's a great program, and I think what they do and the internships and some of the things that Colleen mentioned really is a great networking tool to get you out and out of the classroom and engaged in the community. So you mentioned over the Rhine, where I'm at, my home now for the last decade. I know you're in Oakley. So in that regard, we do this around happy hour time, the show, so we occasionally have a drink or a cocktail. So I would like to cheers you with my Rheingeist Cheetah. We like to keep it local, and then Oakley's own Mad Tree there as well. So what is it? What Mad Tree, what do you have there?
I'm drinking Shade, which is my favorite Mad Tree beer. It's a raspberry tart ale.
Oh, wow.
And if you're following them on social media, they've done some cool mixed drinks with these as well. But I've loved it. I hated when it used to be seasonal because I could only get it sometimes, but it's year round now, and with the spring weather, super jazzed.
Now, I heard actually that you made a couple of phone calls and made that happen. That's now full time. You got a lot of pull over there. I'm a Lyft guy myself, but it's all good. We like to keep it local, whatever it may be. Real quick, we've had a couple of comments already. We got Councilmember James Bonsall from Norwood has dropped by.
From Norwood.
And and he's talking about, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you're doing professionally here in a little bit. But work on the U.S. playing card site and the development there, which is fantastic for the city of Norwood. And then our mutual friend Chris Heelbach has stopped by, council member from the city of Cincinnati, and also prior guest on our show.
And Louisville too.
Yeah, so Louisville, and was it Xavier? He's mentioning he was a Xavier guy as well. So we appreciate everybody stopping by. So thank you. Thank you for that. So kind of bring us forward then a little bit. You mentioned going to work in PG's office. So did that kind of evolve then out of the PPP program for you?
Yeah, so I graduated college in 2015. So if you put your political hat on, that's right around when some presidential campaigns were staffing up. So I originally was thinking about moving to New Hampshire, Iowa to work for Hillary, but the timing didn't quite work out with my graduation date at Xavier. And at the time I was student body president, so the university meant too much for me to leave a little bit early and jump right into a presidential campaign.
Oh, wait, hold
So
on. You say you were student body president at Xavier? Of course,
that I was.
of course you. I missed that in your bio. Of course you were. So we can't just you went really fast, Pat. We can't gloss that over. So
Yeah,
you
it
were
was
student
an
body
exciting
president in
time
your spare time.
in
So
my
that's
spare
cool.
time. Definitely, again, and just another opportunity that I wouldn't have had without Xavier and the amazing people there. I got to serve with some of my very best friends, and it was really wonderful. But I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated. I knew I wanted to do something with community organizing and public service, and somewhere near a city. So I wasn't really quite sure. Wasn't sure if I was going to take the presidential campaign route. But I was working in PPP. You have some opportunities to work with government affairs. So I was working with both Jean Beaupre and Sean Coomer at the time to try to help certain campaigns find employment, or whoever it was that alumni who were looking for jobs or current students who were looking for jobs. And PG was running for United States Senate at the time. So he had some office changes and was looking for a community affairs director. And I don't even know if I had met PG yet. But I knew who he was just being involved in Cincinnati, and threw my name in the hat and applied and started with him full time a week after graduation. So not much of a break, moved straight to Oakley during that kind of end of your senior year time. And then I was at City Hall with him for about 3.5 years.
And I think that's when we connected on a few different issues in particular and got to know each other a little bit. Tell us, for those that don't know, what we see the council members out. They are kind of the face of the office. Obviously, they're elected into that role. But really, much of the kind of the sausage making and the real work that's done. Not that our council members don't work; they work very hard for this part-time job, and it's long hours. They're doing stuff at all hours in the day and the night. But a lot of the research, a lot of creating the actual policy. Somebody has to do all that research, see what other cities are doing, and all the background and actually creating it. Like, it's true that typically it's not the council members sitting down necessarily themselves and typing out the actual legislation. A lot of that is actual staff work that's done by their office, the folks working in their office. What does that structure look like for people that don't know, kind of behind the scenes of the not the candidate but the elected official?
Yeah, so I always say that I was part of the dream team, the best team ever at City Hall when I was there. I mean, working with PG and then his chief of staff at the time, Alita Kamine, who's a councilwoman in Amberley Village. She'd be a great person to get on this show if you can. We were an awesome team together. We had some fantastic interns along the way, but really we all kind of had this mission of, if we spent all of our time in the office, we'd be doing our job wrong. So we spent a lot of time engaging with different neighborhoods, trying to find the issues that Cincinnatians were facing, manning the phones and coming up with creative ideas. And really, we were a seamless team trying to fill in with one another. And we all helped with the communications, and we all kind of worked together. So, I mean, I would say that having PG for my first boss and being on that team taught me a lot about how being on city council and being in public service, you get out of it what you put into it. And if you're really called to be a servant leader, it shows. If I worked a 10-hour day, PG was working 11. Like, I just knew that we were always on the move and getting things done, as PG likes to say, but that was real life in our office. And whether it wasn't just your usual city business, but trying to get creative with innovative projects. And some of my favorite memories were stuff that PG and I got to work on together, whether it was tackling gender-based violence on college campuses and across the country. We got to go speak at the White House right before it turned from Obama to Trump to talk about our work on college campuses around sexual assault. We did some really cool work with the opioid epidemic and the startup community, coming up with innovative ideas and hosting a hackathon to solve for the opioid epidemic, which ended up getting cited in a Harvard Business School case study, and just some really, really cool work that was innovative and different, and not just your basic city services. But when it came down to that too, we were always there, always present. I feel like when I look back on my time at City Hall, I say I got like a master's degree in local government. Like, that was my time there. I learned so much, and also learned how valuable our folks who work in the city administration are. I mean, there are folks who've been there for forever and a half and still haven't lost their passion for local government. There are folks who have come in there and done wonderful, wonderful things for our city. And we're really lucky to have a lot of folks who work at City Hall, not just the elected officials.
Right. And so, a couple of things come to mind. One is you mentioned some of the amazing opportunities, some great, legislation that you got to put together on these very kind of high level topics like the opioid crisis and helping folks that are in danger in various ways. But also there is a lot of constituent services. I mean, folks, if they don't know who to call, they call a council member's office.
Yep.
And the council members help them to the best of their abilities, or at least try to direct them to, maybe cut through some of the red tape or get them to the right department. And so is that a large percentage of the work as well?
For sure. I mean, it's just about showing up, right? I mean, that's half the rule book to being a good local government office or council member. It's just showing up and answering the phone and helping when people need you. So if it's someone who would call and say my water got shut off, or can you please help me fill this pothole, or my trash didn't get picked up, and honestly, like, those moments are huge for those constituents when their council member or his or her office respond and are able to help in those moments. I mean, we always did this annual pothole blitz when Amy Murray was still on council, where we said, potholes are not partisan, and we'd fill them together. And that was such a fun moment, but it reminded folks every March, like, hey, call us. We're here to help. And our public services department is full of fantastic, hardworking people are here to be responsive. And I mean, that's half the battle. It's half the win.
Right.
It's just showing up and being responsive. And if you can do that, that's it, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're elected to do.
Right. Exactly. And that's something that I kind of learned over my police career through all the years. And you have, you're involved in some big events or some things that really stand out in your memory. But a lot of times it's just those day-to-day kind of activities, the day-to-day interactions. And I still have my file of the little thank you notes and letters that I received over the years, where it was just, something that seemed very minor. You helped somebody change an tire. I remember I had Mrs. Tom, she was 94 years old and lived by herself. And she would call me when her porch light was out. And I would come over and change her porch light. And then she would always write a note, oh, thank you so much. And it's just a very small portion of your day, seems like. But you have that opportunity and that ability to really positively impact. And I think that's so important, especially today when, government at many levels, it just has so many negative connotations and people are just turned off for various reasons. When you have the opportunity to do that and really make that impact in somebody's life, I think is very powerful. So that's just amazing. That's amazing stuff. So you kind of transition going forward, out of that, and at a certain point you left PG's office, and then also you're doing other stuff on the side, not just work and your job and this political work, but to get involved in the community, the Oakley Community and Community Council, and some other boards and programs you're involved with.
Yeah, so I've been involved with Oakley Community Council for a long time, almost all 5 years that I've lived here. I started going to community council meetings really when I moved here, just to get to know the neighborhood, better understand community councils, and honestly, like, working with PG, we were going to so many meetings. I was like, oh, if we're going to these other community councils, I sure better know what happens at mine. So I started showing up and getting to know the board members. And I quickly realized two big things. One is there was not a single renter on the board. And Oakley is a very diverse neighborhood of 10,000 people, not just homeowners, but also many renters, particularly young professionals, and very few women. And when I was at Xavier, I was one of the first women student body presidents in way too long. And I really believe in women in public service. And so I tried to say to myself, do I think I can do this? And honestly, I mean, I was spending so much time in the community council. It was worth it for me to try to run and see what I could do to help folks connect with the city when there was needs. And it was really an easy decision for me. So I decided to run, got elected, thanks to all my neighbors and residents who voted for me, and then became president a couple of years later. So I'm in my second term as president, have an incredible board, really some of the most hardworking community members and business owners. We have Kenny McNutt, one of the owners of Madtree. We have John Bernier from Oakley Pub and Grill, Sandy Gross from Sleepy Bee and Brazy Street Studios. On Troy McAndrews, who owns the establishment in Alba, and he definitely heard his name around Cincinnati. And some incredible just folks who are passionate about everything from pedestrian safety to public transit to affordable housing. Some folks who are involved in local politics, some folks who are attorneys, and kind of all over the map. So we meet twice a month. We're a very active board. We have a lot going on. We're an official nonprofit, lots of members and lots of great people. So I feel super fortunate to be honestly just sharing a room with some of those people, let alone having the opportunity to lead with them. So we're excited. We're really busy. We got a lot of stuff going on in Oakley, but that's definitely where I put a lot of my time and energy. That's overlapped with my current job and when I was with PG.
So, and actually, Joe Grow just stopped by and dropped a comment.
I do. Fellow board member.
Fellow board member mentioning Madam President, and Joe certainly is somebody who shares our common passion not only for public transit, but also for safe, walkable streets and Vision Zero, and making our neighborhood pleasant, and not just about the cars racing through, but safe for everybody to walk and enjoy a place like Oakley Square. So let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. What are some for folks that aren't that familiar with their community councils, one of the great things that I preach about the city of Cincinnati is that you don't necessarily have to be from Cincinnati. You don't necessarily have to come from a wealthy family or have a name or been around for eons. And many people are and very involved and very engaged, but you don't have to. If you choose to get involved, there's no age limit, as you certainly proved. You can do that and really make an impact in our communities. Tell us a little bit about the community council structure, how that works, what it means. And then I'd like to kind of transition into, what's going on in Oakley right now. What are some of the focal points of the community council? What are some goals that you're trying to achieve going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of community councils are structured in their own way. So whether or not they have a board or just a kind of president and executive leadership, or who they allow to vote on things, or kind of how they're run, or whether they're an official nonprofit, or if they're involved in invest in neighborhoods, or apply for money at the city. There's all kinds of different ways. They can look a little bit different in every neighborhood. And I would say they definitely are, and they're unique in their own way, as they should be. With 52 unique neighborhoods, definitely want councils who are representative of the community, but who also, kind of are passionate, and they know what their neighborhood needs, which will be different neighborhood by neighborhood. So we're unique in that we have membership dues, and folks can either come to meetings. They don't have to be members. Anyone is welcome anytime. But if you want to be a member, you have access to our monthly newsletter and the ability to vote in our elections. And so when it comes to everything from how we want to spend our city dollars to real estate development, obviously a hot topic in Cincinnati, but definitely here in Oakley when we're a booming neighborhood, any kind of thing that might be before a board, just our board votes on those items. So we're unique in that way. And then the community votes on us as kind of elected officials. So similar to city council in that kind of way. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and all that good stuff. But they're pretty casual, and usually you see them meet once a month. They discuss all kinds of things and hold events. We're really proud of the summer series events that we hold. We're really sad right now that we're not sure what that's going to look like this year, given coronavirus. But, holding neighborhood concerts, and, Walnut Hills is a great example. They do some amazing street food festivals and awesome things there. So I've been super inspired by other community council leadership to see kind of what they do and how they run their boards, but also just, kind of listening to our residents and what they want from us and what they need from us, and how we can be creative and throw events and raise money and do whatever. And so we've taken on some big goals this year. So I know you wanted me to talk a little bit about what we're up to. We just passed our master plan, which was a couple of years in the making. We worked with the city on that. That is an official document now of the city of Cincinnati, where they can use it to kind of be a guiding principle, and we can use it as a guiding principle when we vote on particularly real estate development that comes in, but any sort of goals and things we want to move forward. We're renovating our rec center. That's been a big project and a passion project of mine. We've got a couple $1 million set aside from the city, but we're trying to raise a little bit more. to see if we can really build a rec center. Of all the rec centers in the city, we're one of the most used and one of the only ones that generates a significant amount of revenue back into the city. So we believe we can be better than ever. Then we can help, contribute to other rec centers that have their needs across the city as well. And our rec center services Oakley, Hyde Park, and Mount Lookout. Our summer camps sell out in a day. It's packed full. We do a lot for our senior residents and aging residents, some congregate meals and all kinds of great stuff there. So we're really passionate about that project. We're exploring potentially a neighborhood school, watching and modeling our work after what our friends in Clifton did. So we're thinking about what that might look like and seeing our schools are bursting at the seams. A lot of our Oakley families go to Hyde Park Neighborhood School, but we don't want to take away from all the work that those parents have done to organize and keep that school growing and whatnot. So we're exploring that as well. We have some significant development going in our big vacant manufacturing sites. So we're exploring pedestrian connectivity, potentially an underground tunnel to get from one side of Oakley to the other. Some developers who are helping us with that. And we honestly, we have a lot going on. And then, of course, all of our pedestrian safety needs we are redoing. If you're driving through Oakley these days and you're going through our Oakley Historic District and up near Oakley Station, you'll see a lot of construction. We're finally seeing fruits of many years of labor of a new gateway that'll say, welcome to Oakley, coming from the other side. So 2 pedestrian bridges that we were able to save and rehab. So we're excited about that. Lots of good crosswalks, thanks to Joe and many folks in our neighborhood who have tried to help us get more safe pedestrian crosswalks and things like that too. And honestly, between our events and managing our meetings with real estate and our goals for the board, we're pretty busy. So our board meets the first Tuesday of every month. Our community meets at the rec center. Right now we're meeting virtually, of course. And then on the third Thursday of every month, just our board meets to kind of talk through business and board matters, but those are also open to the public. So our friends are welcome to join us for those too. It's good work.
No, yeah, that's awesome. You guys have your hands full. There's no doubt about that. A couple of things that I kind of noted while you were talking there that are goals of the Oakley Community Council and the neighborhood in general, really tie into things that I've seen, across the city that are just so important these days and that I think are going to be even more important going forward. So, one of the things that you talked about is the rec center. We don't have to get into a whole tangent right now. Actually, he was on the show, Councilmember Seelbach was on the show. We talked a little bit about the city's budget. It's very challenging right now. I don't think all of us really have a full grasp of what the budget scenario is going to be looking like going forward. And to be quite frank, a lot of things are at risk when you're talking about an 80, 90, $100 million operating budget deficit. Having said that, I think this whole notion of recreation, parks, when we talk about post-COVID-19, I think my sense is there's going to be a renewed focus on health and just kind of that in that broader picture and what that means for neighborhoods. We've seen a lot of focus on downtown and kind of the central core of the city, for a while now, and I see that kind of shifting out to neighborhoods, our neighborhood business districts. You talked about walkability. I want to touch on that in just a moment. This whole notion of tying that in, and also the neighborhood school, and all of these things overlap and tie in. I was, for folks that may not know, super engaged on this pedestrian safety issue. Vision Zero is our overarching goal to reduce all traffic crashes, particularly pedestrian, in particular with our school kids that we've seen a rash of them hit. Hyde Park School, and where it's so, it's a good problem to have, but it's so popular, they added classrooms across the street in kind of like an annex other building, and so now you got second grade crossing over a very busy street, and the challenges with that. So I think it's very clear that we are in need of another neighborhood school on the east side. Exactly where the location of that is, I don't know, but it seems pretty evident that just because of this growth and the success really of CPS in general, but Hyde Park School in particular, that it's attracting students, it's attracting families, it's helping us attract families to our neighborhoods. And also, if I'm paying a huge tuition bill at a private school and I have these really high quality public schools, why pay that? I think there's a lot to be done there. So I'm super glad that you're focused on that. But you just kind of see how all of these things tie in, and there's just this general health, safety, education kind of network that's all tied in and supportive. And I'm hearing this neighborhoods across the city, but it sounds like you're super organized and focused on all of those issues. And I've actually been to Oakley Community Council talking about Vision Zero and working with Joe and yourself and others to help promote this. And with our developers now that are offering assistance, we had. Refresh my memory. Where was that? That we were in the developer actually supplied the community council with some dollars, and we had a groundbreaking.
Yeah, on Isabella. So there's some new townhomes going in, kind of where the Hyde Park Kroger is, if you're familiar with that area. And right if you go down Isabella, if you're headed towards Oakley Square, you'll see a big vacant lot that's now going to be turned into some townhomes. And after the developer went through their normal process with us, they came back a couple months later and said they wanted to make a contribution because they felt like that corner is a pretty dangerous one. And they said, we recognize the need for good walkability and pedestrian safety for our future residents. So they gave us some funds, and we were able to leverage those dollars with all kinds of creativity, again, led by my friend Joe, but we turned that into 2 new crosswalks actually here in the city. So we're here in Oakley. So we're super grateful for that. Super exciting.
No, that's amazing. And to the degree that we can encourage that and have more developers thinking in those kind of bigger, broader terms, I think it's very progressive.
Yep.
I think it benefits the entire neighborhood, and it just becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where your neighborhood then becomes more attractive to other folks. And so all of this kind of feeds into it. I think we have a much greater opportunity going forward, not just on a community by community basis, but to really encourage this citywide and really make even more so Cincinnati neighborhoods just wonderful places for families.
Well, and what you're talking about, Derek, is city budget challenges aside, we have a good city and good public services and good first responders, great, amazing first responders who are saving lives every day. But things like parks and recreation and walkability and pedestrian safety, those what make our good city a great city, or make our great city an even better city. And if we don't prioritize those things, and we're not able to help make them a reality. And COVID-19 aside, recognizing the unbelievable, unprecedented challenges, we have to get creative and we have to work together, because I do believe our city is great, but it's only going to be better when we prioritize these things, and we can't lose those just because of our budget challenges. So I'm eager. I'm trying to flip it a little bit. A lot of community councils are worried about city budget dollars and what that's going to do to impact them. But I'm trying to say, okay, well, what was we as community council in Oakley, what can we do to keep our community strong right now, and to kind of help the city out and make sure, we plant and mulch all of our own tree beds here in the business district. We as a community council hire someone and pay them to do that. Same with our Christmas lights in the square around the holidays. So, we try to make our business district look great. And we know right now when the city is strapped and all kinds of challenges, that maybe that's not their top priority, but we want folks who are spending more time outside than ever to be in our business district and be in our green space and love it and enjoy it. So whatever we can do to help, we do that as well.
No, and that's awesome. And one of the great things I think about the folks in Oakley in general, yourself, obviously the community council, but I think there's a sense there that, hey, we probably have more resources than many of the neighborhoods and other community council across the city. So the fact that you have that in mind, and go the kind of the extra mile to give back in that way, I think is, I think is something that you're to be commended for. And so we've got a question here from Bill Collins, who's speaking of engaged citizens, resident of Madisonville, your neighbor next door. He has a question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Bill knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And he's got some insight about the Vega Americas factory site off Brotherton Road that will soon be for sale because they've outgrown that and are unfortunately apparently moving to Mason. And Bill's considering that perhaps for a school site or some other things. Do you have any insights on that you're able or willing or able to share?
I have not heard about that site yet. I know once you get up that way, the neighborhood lines are close, but I have not heard anything about that yet. Usually we're in the know about some sites about a month or so before someone's headed to community council. We encourage them to go through our process. Because of how much real estate turnover and development is happening in our neighborhood, we have a pretty clear, meet with us, let us know, come and speak to the community. Then you can come back and ask for letters of support, mainly because we average 3 to 5 developers per meeting sometimes who have ideas for their vision in Oakley. And so we don't like to say we're a difficult community council, but we're definitely challenging. We've definitely put folks through the ringer.
Vigilant.
Yes.
So Bill's got his finger on the pulse of.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I will be giving you a message and a call about that. To see
well, Bill used to be in the media, so he's an investigative reporter. He does a great job out there, and I appreciate his insights and background. So,
yeah, that's great.
Kind of last point on the community council, and then I kind of want to move forward into what else you've got going on today, and then maybe just some thoughts on where we go from here. If somebody wants to join the Oakley Community Council, it's open to residents. And how do I join? Is there a website? Is there a Facebook page? How does that happen if one wants to join? What's involved?
Yeah. Great question. All of our information is on our website. So we're trying to drive a lot of folks there. You can hear about what we're doing for COVID-19 response, our events, when our meetings are, how to engage with us, our priorities, all that good stuff. Read our master plan. So go to oakleynow.com. You can check out everything there, message us, contact us. We all have our own Oakley email accounts that we monitor, and a PO box if you want to send us some mail. But you can find everything there, oakleynow.com. So be sure to check it out. We try to keep it updated. Again, I cannot speak highly enough about my board members who put time and energy into the smallest things, like keeping that up to date and are fully responsive. So if you need us, that's where you can find us.
Gotcha. Oakleynow.com. So check that out, especially everybody, but Oakley residents in particular, get engaged with your great community council there. So moving forward professionally now, you're still around City Hall, but you're not working directly there. What have you got going on these days? It takes you all the way out to U.S. playing cards in Norwood, probably up to Columbus and all points in between.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. So in September of 2018, I think it was, is when I officially joined my new role. So I work with a company called DSD Advisors. We are a lobbying government affairs firm that's an affiliate of Dinsmore and Scholl, one of the largest law firm in Cincinnati. And my team is a team of 3, and we represent our clients before all levels of government, but mostly the city and the county and the state. So of the 3 of us, most of my workload is our local governments. So folks before the city and some of the county, and then of course our new project in Norwood and a little bit of state lobbying that I've picked up. But we represent folks from real estate developers to nonprofits to transit organizations, arts associations, all kinds of folks who University of Cincinnati, healthcare like UC Health, and some startups like Cincy Tech. So amazing clients that we have, and we help them navigate the complexities of government. So whether it's passing one piece of legislation or relationship building or kind of a long-term engagement or just getting one project done, that's what you hire us for. So we're consultants, we're lobbyists, we're government affairs, we're whatever you need us to be. Sometimes when I'm trying to explain to someone what I do who doesn't work in government, I'm like, oh, I'm a Sherpa, and here's the hill of government, and I help trust my process. Like, I might have to carry you, we might have to start over, there's different paths. So what I love about it is that I get to be around my friends at City Hall still, and definitely kind of be on the outside and learn what it's like to work with government, not from the inside, but from the outside. And then I also feel like I'm helping people understand, especially in these challenging times that we're having, how and why government can serve them. So, what's the Rahm Emanuel quote about, never waste a good crisis, right? Like right now, we're trying to get really innovative about how to help people access their government when they need it more than ever. We're trying to help folks understand the challenges that are before our elected officials, but that we're still here to help them. So sometimes it's turning rocks over to find dollars, but most of the time it's relationship building and problem solving and working with our elected officials to achieve a common goal. So I love it. Our team is here to help. If you have any government affairs needs, we're out and about. And so I know that James asked the question, but we're working. We just started a new contract with our friends in Norwood. So we represent PLK Communities, an amazing residential real estate developer here in Greater Cincinnati. and they acquired the site, and we're in the process of demoing part of it and restoring part of it, and planning for the future, engaging the neighborhood about what they want to see there. So it's a huge project undertaking, and will be a long-term thing. So I could talk about that for days, but yeah, so we're out and about. We're busy.
No, it sounds like it. And so just kind of tying all of this together, and you've been, even from just going back to, your time at Xavier in the PPP program and all of the other things. We've probably missed a few boards and other volunteer positions that you've been engaged with. But you've been involved in public service and local government here in Cincinnati in a number of different kind of angles that are kind of all coming together. Do you have any kind of a sense? Is it too early to tell post COVID-19? There's a lot of variables. We don't know what's going to happen yet. But what's your kind of sense for the city of Cincinnati and the Oakley neighborhood in particular? What's the vibe as we hopefully come out of this and don't end up back in the same boat if it comes back in the fall or whatever they say may be possible? Do you just have a sense of where we go from here, some of the next steps?
Yeah, thanks. I think, first of all, I think our friends, our neighbors, our families are facing something heartbreaking and challenging. And I'm so tired of using the word unprecedented because it's just been awful, right?
Yeah, we're not. People are getting tired of saying the new normal. The new normal is just normal now because it's
normal. Yeah, and it's going to be like this for a while. And so, I think, first and foremost, just sending, all the respect and love and support to our friends and neighbors who have done amazing and creative things to help keep people safe. And really, our thoughts go out to folks who have struggled to keep their businesses open and who maybe make it through this and whatnot. And, I think that we definitely need to band together. But I am optimistic because I believe that our city is resilient and full of people like yourself and many folks that you have worked with and you and I share common friends with who believe in this city and their communities and who will band together and work together and come out of this stronger and better than ever. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's going to be tough work. And I think we're going to have to rethink our priorities. We're going to have to rethink the way that we communicate with one another, obviously, and how we engage folks differently. I'm thinking about folks who, ourselves, even with our projects, like we want to host all kinds of community engagement forums and knock on doors. And nothing, I love community organizing. There's nothing like knocking on doors for candidates I love and issues I support. But I can't do that right now. And so how do you reach people differently? And that's just one small thing, right? But I do believe that we're resilient. I think we're going to start to see some of our people in our community shine, like our startup community, who are the type of thinkers who I aspire to be, who take a problem, a big, hairy, messy problem, and find a way to solve it in a unique way. And I think we're going to see some incredible work that comes out of this too. So I'm hopeful. I'm tired of being inside my house. I'm sure many people are too. I got to go to City Hall yesterday with a client to give a presentation in Norwood City Hall today, and just to be back in this like public building with a mask, of course, and safe. Felt good to be out there, but I know not everyone has that privilege, and it's going to be a while before we're back to that normal. But I think this is a reality that's been coming for a while, and we just have to be our resilient selves and move forward with grace and patience and strength.
Well, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Off that speech, you got me ready to roll. Yeah, those are inspiring words. And that's part of what we're trying to do here, even with this program, right? Just to be able to connect in the way that we can right now, share some stories of some great folks across the city of Cincinnati, how they're making an impact, how they got to be where they're at, and to the heights that we achieve next. I think there is these kind of times of crisis are when it's hard going through it. People suffer, but when we come out, it can be times of great change and great progress that's forced upon us, and then we adapt and move forward. So with that, I don't think I could top. I need to stop talking because I can't top that inspirational speech. I can tell you what, we're going to be seeing more from Colleen Reynolds. There's no doubt about that. She's now been elected student body president at Xavier. president of the Oakley Community Council, a precinct executive for the Democratic Party. I get the sense that this is not your last election that you've won. There may be other elections in your future, candidates. What do you think about that? Is it a possibility someday down the road?
Never say never. Maybe one day. Definitely on a local level, if that day ever comes. I love the city. Can't imagine leaving it anytime soon. But I like working in and around government, being behind the scenes. I'm here and happy to just make our city a better place. So whatever that looks like, maybe one day. But
That's no, that's amazing stuff. Hey, one last question from Joe, and it's caught my eye because I saw party, and anytime somebody says party, it catches my attention. Um, Joe wants to know about any recommendations for the '80s night party on the square. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back at some point where we can gather. '80s night. I might have been around in the '80s. I don't know. I don't think you were. I might have been around the 1880s, but 80s night party sounds kind of cool. Are we going to do that? What's happening?
yeah, Joe is teasing me because we talked about doing a decades or 80s night in the square at one point in one of our community council meetings, and I proudly exclaimed to the group, "I have no idea what to wear because
You've heard of it. You probably need to Google that. What went on? All right, Joe, we're going to work on that. Yeah, I'll give her some pointers on what went on back in the '80s. It was a little foggy, but I remember it. Another great point that Joe makes here before we close the show out, folks. Just remember, for folks that are in Oakley, anyone who lives, works, or worships in Oakley is eligible to be a member of the community council. So it's not just a resident. Other folks, other stakeholders can get engaged, and I'm sure there's information at oakleynow.com on how to become a member, and everybody is encouraged and welcome to get engaged and learn more about your neighborhood and your community. So that's awesome stuff. Colleen, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule and joining us this evening. It's been very enlightening, so I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. So we will be back tomorrow night. I will give you a little teaser right now. We're going to the other end of the city, to the far northwest side to College Hill with a great guest tomorrow night. I'm going to just put that little teaser out there so our friends at College Hill, make sure everybody, but especially our College Hill folks, join us tomorrow evening with another episode of D Live, the Convo series. And with that, we will sign off. Everybody have a great and safe evening. Peace and love as always, Cincinnati. And Colleen, thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right. Cheers. Bye now. Have a great night, everybody.